Hello, everybody. Happy Friday if you're watching this on a Friday. If not, happy whatever day it is. And since it is Friday, I'm drinking my wellness water out of a wine glass just because it's Friday and I feel fancy. If you have not followed me on Instagram, you should. Why not? But I have wellness water pretty often. It's usually a twice a day occurrence. Lately, it's been with like lunch or dinner, and then it's the first thing I drink when I wake up. The concept of wellness water is cool because you can implement vitamins and supplements and powders and tinctures and things like that into your own customized brew. For me, I always start with green tea, black tea, lime juice or lemon juice, just kind of like whatever I'm feeling into the week, and then sparkling water because I like the bubbles, and then all the powders you can imagine, right? I always start with potassium and magnesium. And then I add in tinctures that I'm working on, right? So if I'm really working on gut health, I'll use like some trofala powder. I tend to put oyster extract, which is a good form of zinc. I have vitamin D extract as far as like tinctures go. Ashwagandha sometimes I throw in there. So anyways, you get the point. Whatever you're currently trying to up level in your life, like there's a mineral for that, I promise you. And your multivitamins and some of the pill capsules often have one, too much. Like nobody's out here needing 750 milligrams of every single thing, right? Two, you might not be deficient in some of the things that are included in that mix. And then three, you can actually like control your absorption and your dosage a lot more with powders and tinctures. So wellness water is a good place to start. I would always recommend starting at the bottom and working your way up. No one wants to need all of these things, right? Like ideally you get all of your minerals through food and water and sun and all of the natural things. But every once in a while you need some kick and some things that you can help regulate and balance. And I would say like everybody can benefit from electrolytes. So start there and then you can get kind of creative and fun with it. So cheers to wellness water in a wine glass on a Friday. This episode is actually going to be my transitional episode from focus and friction to she's a 10. Big pivot for me. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that it's been kind of a big letting go for me. To let go of Fit Life Balance, which has been my coaching company for 5 years now. And I'm pivoting massively into just a new approach to coaching females. And it's going to be called She's a 10. Why? Because everybody wants to be a 10. Let's be real. No, She's a 10 is kind of a spinoff of like 10 topics that are often overlooked or undervalued in the wellness approach for females. So as you can imagine, within my coaching company, I've landed the plane on 10 topics, 10-minute videos, 10 tools, 10 questions. Like it's just going to be a fun time. It's going to be a thread of tens. So that is my coaching company, my new rebranding, going live on May 22nd. I'm taking applications for new clients the week of May 15th. So if you are interested, jump on it. I will take a very limited amount of headcount. I'll just be real with you because this is going to be a really cool shift in approach and I want to master it. I want to be really good at it and comfortable and I want to pour my heart into yours. And so, yeah, solidify your spot if you're interested in coaching. I have been a bodybuilder for 5 years. I've been in the wellness and nutrition space, fitness and nutrition space realistically for 10. And I've had everything from nutrition specialization to personal training partnership to mentorships in the dietitian space. And then more recently, mentorships in the functional medicine space. I did my first Zen meditation retreat recently, which was incredible. And so I'm kind of taking like my whole backpack of things and how do I want to incorporate just like a complete rebrand of all the tools. And I'll be honest and vulnerable that like my first couple of years of coaching was very tied to macros and calories and cardio regimen and workouts. And if it didn't work, you're not following your plan, right? Like the question was always like, how accurate do you think you are? What metrics are you using on your food scale? Like, let's really talk about those licks, bites, and nibbles. Yes, intake matters. Like, let's be real. Like, calories in, calories out. I mean, hypothetically speaking, is energy conversion. But there's just so much more to that. And then, like, as you think about female hormones and, like, the female system in general, like, there is so much opportunity to dive in and optimize differently. like period, end of story. So I am like officially rebranding into She's a 10, saying goodbye and thank you, like goodbye and thank you to Fit Life Balance, because it was an incredible journey. But I'm ready to kind of like tackle a different approach and continue to learn and continue to like live in the space of wellness, and say goodnight to things that are potentially tired and overplayed, and like welcoming in new concepts, new studies, new researches, and help up level like the female aspect. So this is, I guess, my first episode of like the public view. I want to reintroduce myself as a wellness coach and make it public. Like whoever wants to learn, jump on in. And then Patreon, the channel Patreon, will be cool because I can actually put in some tools and some downloads and some worksheets. And then every once in a while throw in like a bonus Q&A. So Patreon will be the community, and then YouTube will be pretty much my podcast for free, public eye, to reintroduce myself as a coach. So cheers to the first episode. And I wanted to be a little bit more formal today, like here's my mission, here's my goal and strategy, but you know what, we're just going to go for it. Jay was asking like, what are you going to talk about? Like, what's your topic today? And I was like, I want to feel into it, and like whatever's on my mind, whatever's like in my energy, that's what I'm gonna talk about. And quite frankly, I was inspired with today's topic with a friend. I was talking to her this morning. I kind of have this thing where like my morning walks, I leave one of my best friends a voice memo, and she sends me a voice memo back. And we were talking about like the summer, right? Like getting, like we're probably gonna hang out, do some travel. And she's like, yeah, I think I'm ready to like, you know, get in shape and like start to implement macros again. I like picked up some of my old calorie goals and like I'm just getting after it. And my response was like, well, you don't have, like, do you want to? Like, do you want to jump on macros? Do you want to track calories? And she's like, not really. Like, I don't know, maybe. Like these are my goals. And then like typically you get like the common like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on fire, like yes. And then Thursday's like, yeah, like half of my day was really good. And then Friday, and then you're like half on, half off. And by the time you go to bed on Friday, you're like, what happened? Listen, there was a ramen place that opened. I went to this Italian place for an appetizer. And then like, but don't worry, like 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. was like solid. And then Saturday and Sunday, you're like, what is a macro? What do you mean? Oh, okay. So Monday, I'm reminded of everything that I committed to. And then it's like this domino, right? And you end up maintaining because you're like in a deficit, caloric deficit, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, you're like maintenance. And then Saturday and Sunday, we surplused it because I deserve it and I worked really hard. And then you like repeat the cycle. And then what happens is you like maintain weight, you confuse your body. And if you're on top of that dealing with like any hormone imbalance, whether it's like stress, cortisol, adrenal, like irregular cycles, like whatever on top of that, you're just like asking for like a frustrating journey. You know what I mean? So the topic today is like that kind of inspired me of like, there's so many other ways to think about like getting tight, getting in shape, like summer body. Like how do we like start to like fine tune our approach without tracking calories and macros? And I also like can't help but think about like my percentage of breakdown in current clients. I want to say it's like 50-50, but it's really not. It's like 25, 25, 25, 25-ish. I have like 25% of my girls are like, I just need to get to a healthier body fat percentage. I don't know where to start. I want to get there. And like, that's my primary goal. I have 25% that's like, my hormones are whack. And you know why? Because I'm doing everything in the book and nothing's working. And I can't sleep. And I'm bloated. And my eyes are puffy in the morning. Like, I don't know what's going on. I just need to like feel better and therefore look better. And then I've got 25% that are like average weight, right? And doing all the things and like are in the fitness hype, but like want to be lean bean for summer. Okay. And then you've got 25% of like, I don't even know where to start. What do you mean? What's a macro? I just like, I'm in the drive-thru right now at Chick-fil-A, so just tell me what to order, right? Like I've got like all the things. And so I think like this podcast is kind of like driving the topic of like, what else, like more than macros, like what else is there? Like, how can I think differently about nutrition without the numbers? And that's just it, right? Like, I think ultimately, like we've created the numbers, like calories and macros came from us. Your body knows energy, it knows performance, it knows what it needs to be optimal, what to do to provide energy, how to produce melatonin at night and how to produce cortisol in the morning. Like, the glands and hormones that are, constantly going through your body to regulate your whole metabolism and microbiome. We just add on like numbers and labels and things like that as human beings. So like at the end of the day, like there is more, and there's more to think about and more to tighten up and plan and use as a strategy. So today, I wanted to call it like the evolution of nutrition, the filters of fuel. I'm just kidding. Like we're getting a little too far. I'm just gonna say like more than macros, right? Like it's a little bit more than macros. So first and foremost, like macronutrients, short for like macros, short for macronutrients, macronutrients, short for food, protein, carbs, and fats. Protein, satiety, muscle development, muscle retention. We lose muscle as we age, so like let's keep that around for metabolic health and like bone structure. Like right, protein, muscle, it's all good. Fats, mood stability, hormone stability, digestive absorption, digestive stability, all the things that work intermingled with all of your hormones. Amazing for it. Carbohydrate, quick store of energy, right? Like insulin, sugar, blood sugar, quick like in the gym energy or recovery from a workout. Carbohydrates also aid in like healing muscle tears, any injury, any sickness. Carbs are really, really good for that. There's layers of each of those macros. So there's like processed proteins, vegan proteins, whole source proteins. I'm not afraid to say good and bad fats because I'm a believer that there's good and bad fats. There's not good and bad foods. Like let's not put like moral value into food, but there are good and bad fats. Like there's fats that just don't serve you. Yummy for sure. Once or twice a month for sure, right? But like knowing your fat sources and being intentional about like your plates and like where the fat shows up is key. Like I promise you, you're going to feel a difference when you start implementing more good fats and less bad fat. You can also have more of good fats versus just fats in general, right? I had one of my clients and on the check-in form, I asked, what are your primary carb sources right now? What are your primary fat sources? And she's like, I don't know what my primary fat sources are, but I do know that I'm like way over like in what I like should be intaking right now. I don't know where they come from. I'm like, oh, it's probably because of processed food or like on the go or something like that. It's like subliminal fats get thrown into foods with like seed oils and over manipulated ingredients. So even just being aware of like where your fat comes from, step one, right? And then you can be intentional about your fat and time it out and do all the things. And then carbohydrates, there's so many layers of carbohydrates, like fibrous carbs, refined carbohydrates, white carbs, brown carbs, carbs from fruits, carbs from veggies, low glycemic, high glycemic. Like carbs are another bucket of worms. But I think it's just like, how do you just stop looking at macronutrients or macros as numbers and more of quality of what's in your food, right? Like start there. Do I track calories? Do I track macros? I would be a hypocrite if I said that macros weren't effective. I tracked macros and calories for, I'm not kidding, 10 years. I remember one of my clients like liked my status on MyFitnessPal. And she's like, is that real? And I was like, yeah. Being a bodybuilder for 5 years, you go in and out of seasons. You have a season of growth and like muscle development, potential surplus to gain mass. And then you go through a competition prep where it just gets chipped and chipped and chipped and chipped. And so tracking macros and calories wasn't really like a negotiable item. I eventually transitioned into meal plans, which in retrospect is still monitoring your intake in a different way. Anyways, there's a time and a place to track macros and calories. I think there's two major reasons why you could track. One, to gain knowledge and awareness of what you're currently eating and where your levels are. Like if you don't know that you are consuming 90 grams of fat every single day and 510 carbohydrates and 2 grams of protein, where do you start, right? Where do you start to make adjustments? So like just visibility. And then also like knowing like, oh yeah, black beans, there's no fat, but it's carbs and protein, right? I thought it was just carbs. It's like just kind of figuring out like what's within the food item that you're having. So therefore you can start to create more balanced plate. One of my clients recently was like, aren't Brussels sprouts like fattening? I'm like, no. Brussels sprouts are carbohydrate, potential, a little bit of protein, but like they get a rap for fat because they're usually smothered in like bacon and yummy like sauces and things like that. But primarily, like I wouldn't consider Brussels sprouts like a fat source. So it's just like getting to know like macronutrients in correlation to food. So that's like one, visibility, dietary recall, knowing what you're at, like Give it a day, 2 days of tracking, and you'll learn a lot. Give it 7 days, you'll learn even more. Track for 30 days, you'll learn a ton about food, and then put the app away, right? Like if that's not what you're into, what's not the vibe you're going for, great. Second reason is seasonality. Like if you have a time restricted goal and something that means a lot to you to accomplish, and you want to be very measured and very protocoled, like macros could help. I still think it's more than calories and it's still more than macros. Just because you have goals doesn't mean you can fill them with everything. Eventually, your body is going to push back in a way that maybe you're mineral deficient, maybe you're constipated, maybe you're bloated, maybe you get crazy sugar spikes, maybe you're so hungry at 3 p.m. every day and you don't know why. It's eventually there's going to be a place and a moment where you're like, okay, there's got to be more than this. And so that's kind of what inspired my topic today, of like thinking beyond that, but also staying close to macronutrients. So the first thing I want to talk about is like the concept of building parameters. My clients hear me talk a lot about like blocking, time blocking. We have 4 different blocks that we manage within the wellness strategy. And one of them is meal blocks. And like you can call it what you want, call it like an appointment to eat, an appointment with yourself, blocking it on your calendar, like whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it is like figuring out when you want to eat throughout the day. Step 1, what are your meal times? 8, 12, 2, and 6. Great. Try it out. You're like, oh no, 4 meals? I'm going to do 3. Okay. 9, 1, 6. Okay. Or 10, 3, 7. Figure it out for you. You have your workflow, you have your family flow, you have your fitness flow, you figure it out for you, but figure out your work times. That's like number 1. Number 2 is first bite, last bite. That also gives you an opportunity to let your body and your digestive system do its job. So if you figure out first bite and last bite and the time in between that, you're kind of giving yourself a fasted state to like rebuild and refresh and reset all of your microbiome. And then on top of that, like creating space between each meal instead of like the concept of grazing all day long. And you wonder why you're bloated, you wonder why you're inflamed, you wonder why you're puffy. You're not giving your body a chance to do its job. So think about like a pot of boiled chicken, raw chicken, and it's almost done. And then you like throw more raw chicken on top of the pot. Like you're gonna have to start over. You have to wait again for it to like all cook together. Your stomach's the same way. Like if you eat a meal, like let it do its job and then put more in later when that is done. So like first bite, last bite, and creating meal times and pillars is a great first step. Just start there, 1 week. Second week, then look at your plates. So protein, carbon, fat, protein, carbon, fat, protein, carbon, fat, protein, carbon, fat. That's all for the whole entire week, okay? Week number 3, do the same thing with your time blocks. Trust and consistency is being built here, right? And then I would challenge you to do 8 ounces of water every waking hour. It's actually like really realistic, like 8 ounces. I think this is a 12-ounce cup. But like imagine like this is 8 ounces and every hour you have 60 minutes to drink that much water, right? 8 ounces of water every waking hour, okay? The next week, then you start thinking about what is coming out of a barcode, what is coming out of a package, what am I reheating, what am I going out to drive through, what am I doing a grab and go. And mind you, you're like 3 or 4 weeks into just being mindful and being intentional about your eating, right? And then you get to a place where you're like, okay, what can I remove that's coming out of a barcode processed item, right? What can I swap in from maybe more whole sources of food so my body can actually start absorbing more minerals, more nutrients? Not because I should, because you're going to see it in digestive health. You're going to see it in sleep management. You're going to see it in energy levels, right? So week 3 or 4, you're going to now look at processed percentages. I used to coach to 80-20. I think that's great. I would now coach to like, what are you eating that's processed? And like, could you potentially look deeper into the convenient like aspect of that and do a little bit more meal prep? Cooking some extra chicken, having some more fruits available. Like I would challenge you, and I don't know that I want to say 100% whole foods because that's not realistic and it's really not sustainable. But even if it's like on a weekly aspect, could you do like 10 to 20% of processed and everything else is going to be whole food? So now this week, and maybe this is like a 2-week project, really thinking about like processed food, whole foods. What does my meal prep look like? Like how can I strengthen my ability to have just things available to snack on throughout the day or to implement into my meals that's not processed? Um, and so I think that's where you can start to stand back and notice the difference of like, okay, I removed some processed items and I put more food volume in. Holy moly, I feel like I'm eating a lot more now. Now you can start to notice like maybe I don't need as much food as I thought I did because now I'm getting whole nutrient sources, and wow, my swelling is going down, my inflammation is going down. Like I'm having more consistent bowel movements. Like everything is trying to like fall in place. And then you can start looking about like, okay, where can I put in more minerals? And like that's a whole nother topic. That's why I'm a coach, so I can like personalize mineral approach for people. But when you think about like electrolytes, like everybody can add value from electrolytes, whether that's potassium and magnesium, whether that's an electrolyte packet. Like where can I do maybe once or twice a day implementing electrolytes into my rhythm, implementing some minerals. What vitamins am I taking? And like, let me really unpack these bottles and see like what's in them. And like, maybe what can I take away? What can I add in? Like do some research on what is my body telling me? What problem am I trying to solve? Maybe it's sleep, maybe it's stress, maybe it's digestive health, maybe it's hair, maybe it's hormones, like maybe it's mood. What am I trying to get after, and how can I maybe find a mineral form to add into like my approach? So now we're 4 or 5 weeks in and we're not tracking macros or calories. We're just looking at our plates, our times, our first bite, our last bite, water in 8-ounce portions every waking hour. And then now I'm looking at my minerals to see how I can implement some deficiencies or vitamins or powders or ashwagandha, or all the things, right? And so now you take a look at your female self and realize that when you start to incorporate movement, whether that's exercise, walking, resistance training. I do recommend resistance training. It's just, it has a place in my heart, and I can explain that another time. But resistance training, basically, don't think about weight training. Don't think about what workouts. Just think about adding resistance to your current body. So if something is hard for your body to complete, it would be considered resistance, right? Like it's, don't overthink it. Incorporating resistance training into your regimen, whether that's starting with 1 a week, 2 a week, wherever you're at, start there. And then also like getting outside, I would say once or twice a day. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes. No need to jump on the cardio machine quite yet. But when you think about adding those into your regimen, I would start with getting in some movement morning and night, circadian rhythm, like absorbing the sun and seeing the sunset. There's definitely power and mineral in that, just that alone. But then even more than that, how do you start to anticipate the week in front of you? And this is again where my coaching comes in. Luteal, follicular, menstrual, ovulatory phase, whatever phase in your cycle you're in, and being able to optimize how you are feeling. I'm so motivated. I'm going to push some heavy weight. I've got all the high intensity workouts, or like, you will find me on the couch with a good book and a blanket and a bar of chocolate. That is where you'll find me. But like, can you imagine a world where you can anticipate that, to where you can even start adjusting your food and your meals and the ingredients that you're incorporating and the minerals you're incorporating in, and the movement? Like you can definitely sync up your movement and your exercises with the way that you're feeling in each week of your cycle. It's one of the topics for She's a 10. But that would be like the next layer of like week to week to week, because now you've got your rhythm and now you've got your regimen. Macros not related, calories are not even in the picture, but now you're thinking about, where do I need more food? Where do I need specific ingredients? Where can I add more cardio? Where can I add more resistance training, just by getting closer with your female self? And then I think at that point, you think about your sources. That's when you start to get a little bit more detailed. So now you're on like what? Week 6, week 5, 7, somewhere in there. You start to really think about like, what are my carb sources? What are my fat sources? What are my protein sources? Is there any opportunity here to get like a cleaner version or healthier fats, more whole sources of protein? Maybe I'm still struggling with getting that protein in. What do I need to do in my approach to better insert quality protein sources? Maybe you're struggling with weight loss resistance. Maybe we're 5 weeks in and you haven't really like lost the body fat that you're looking to lose. Maybe you're still feeling sluggish. Maybe you're struggling with sleep. Maybe you're still like extremely bloated and you just feel like something's off. Try really taking a deeper look into your carbohydrate sources. By no means I'm saying no carbs, but I am saying there are carbs that are good, better, best. And when you're dealing with hormone imbalance or weight loss resistance or fluidity in your cycles, so when you think about like just having regular cycles, blood sugar is something you want to tap into. Again, another topic for She's a 10. But thinking about like the refined carbohydrates versus the carbohydrates that may make more time to cook, or like whole forms, fruits and veggies, etc. So really diving into your sources would be like week 5 or 6. And then on top of that, then you can start to implement, like, okay, I've really got this nice structure in place and I've got everything kind of working, and see where your body's at. Like, start to listen. Am I seeing improvement? Am I noticing a difference in my energy? Am my clothes fitting differently? And is it time to put in more movement? Like, can I add in another workout? Can I add in another walk in the evening after dinner? Another good way to stabilize kind of your blood sugar is to walk after you eat. Whether it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it takes the glycogen and everything that just got fueled into your body and stabilizes it through your metabolism. So even like a 5-minute walk. I remember the other day, I had it planned, like it was in my calendar, and I had lunch and I had like literally like 12 minutes before my next call. And I was like, I can do this. I got it. So I like set my away message and I like booked it up to the mailbox and booked it back. Just such a difference. And like, you just feel like rejuvenated, you feel less inflamed, you feel like your body is like optimally working. So where can you find opportunities to add in a little bit more movement? Again, it's not about jumping on the cardio machine. It's not taking an extra HIIT class. Quite frankly, those will just make you real hungry and confused, and they might just make your journey a little bit less sustainable versus just thinking about what are like some chunks in my day that I can add another block, a movement block. And then at that point, you can check and adjust. So say you've made progress for, now we're on to like almost 2 months and progress is happening and things are great. Then you can start thinking about, okay, I'm really comfortable and I've built my approach to nutrition and I'm not even tracking macros or calories. Where can I make adjustments in my expenditure or my intake, right? And that's where you can start to think about picking different sources, getting closer to your portions, adding additional walks, getting up to maybe 2 or 3 workouts a week, and then start to see, you'll be surprised that if you're really looking at all of the angles, macros and calories, they won't be needed as much as you think they will be. And it's taking it into small little bites of pieces every single week, listening to your body, checking and adjusting. Maybe like week 4, you're like, okay, I want a coach because I want accountability, or I want more specific guidance on how to implement minerals, or more accountability with my nutrient sources. Like maybe you come to week 4 or 5 and you're like, I think I'm ready for like accountability partner, or you join a community or something like that. But I think ultimately taking it one step at a time, 1 week at a time, and realizing that there's more that your body could tell you than maybe an app would. And don't get me wrong, if there's ever a time where you want the guidance and you want the structure and you commit to 10, 12 weeks of tracking your intake and learning more about what that looks like, great. But have an exit plan. And maybe this isn't necessarily an intro plan. Maybe it's an exit plan. Maybe you're like, no. Listen, I'm gonna jump on the macro train. I'm gonna give it 12 weeks. And then all of your parameters that you just shared with me, that's gonna be my exit strategy because I wanna be able to reverse out of it correctly. Great. So we would take this almost in reverse and make sure that we adequately introduce you into intuitive eating, or like letting go of macros, letting go of numbers, and introducing different ways to measure success, measure progress in the nutrition space. Okay, I'm coming up on my time already. I'm trying to keep it to 30 minutes, a podcast. Hopefully this was entertaining, a fun topic to think about going into summer, going into like, I don't know what to do and I feel stuck, or I just like macros doesn't work for me, or like it seems tedious. How do I think about nutrition differently? And yes, I touched on some like topics that could be like, well, hold up. Tell me more about that. Hold up. Cycle syncing? What do you mean? So more to come on future episodes, and also look out for applications opening on May 15th, which all of these things and more will be covered within my coaching program. So super excited to continue this channel, this creative space. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all very soon.